I'm State Representative Steve Handy, and our co-chair, Senator Gene Davis, is also on the call. We on our quarterly meetings, we rotate back and forth who conducts the meeting. So it is. I just verified that it is my turn. Thanks to Callie for her really great work. Wish we had her full time, but we're taking what we can get. She she has a lot of things to do in her portfolio for the agricultural department, and she's terrific at communication and pulling this together. And had some big shoes to fill with Jack, and she's doing a terrific job for us. So we really appreciate it. So what we have here, we're going to have a little roll call so that we can all get to know each other. And I've introduced myself. So let's start with Senator Davis and then sort of round robin and just go for it.
Good afternoon and welcome. This committee is really one of the most important, I think, for enlightenment on food production and how we're going to preserve it in the state of Utah into the future. So I'm looking forward to today's discussions.
Thank you. Maybe I'll just call you out. Let's start at the top here. Laura, how about you? Laura Cole. Need to unmute.
She's muted.
Yeah, she's muted. While we're figuring her out.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Laura. Go ahead. Tell us about
Sorry
you.
about that. I'm sorry. I'm multitasking. Are we doing introductions?
Please, yes. Tell us about you.
Yes. So I am with the Bureau of Health Promotion with the Utah Department of Health, and I am on the EPIC team as a public health nutritionist. So I'm doing work with healthy food access.
That's terrific. We'll look forward to talking to you later. All right, Tamara, you're up the right of my screen. Let's meet you who are listening in today.
Yeah, so my name is Tamara Jorgensen. I am a small meat producer, and I sell heritage Dexter cattle and Boer goat to farmers markets. So I'm basically a farm to fork operation that's trying to be sustainable.
Where are you based?
We're based out of Richmond, Utah, so northern Cache Valley.
Yes, yeah, of course. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk to our staff, our staffer, Callie.
Yep. So I do the administrative side of the council, different scheduling meetings and things. Things like that. So something to note as well, if you guys have topics that you feel would be good for the agenda to move forward on anything that we cover, just let me know. I'd be happy to add it to the agenda in the future.
Yeah, Callie's the repository of everything. We have these 4 working groups. We're going to get reports from them. We have our preservation group, or ag land preservation, right after. So we'll have to be done if we go that long, just 3:45 or so to get ready for the next meeting. And Callie has been just great in organizing all of this. All right, Reagan, before you take a sip there, you're next on the screen. There
Good
you go.
afternoon. Hi, Reagan Emmons. I'm with Utah State University and currently coordinating the initiative for the Utah Farmers Market Network.
Oh, good. All right, terrific. Dr. Hall Kelsey has been so helpful to us in organizing this 2.5 years ago, and just contributes just in a great way to what we're trying to accomplish here. So go ahead, Kelsey.
I'm an associate professor in agricultural communication, and I have an extension specialist appointment in local food marketing, but I work really closely with our SNAP education program, Create Better Health, and nutrition extension professionals as it relates to serving the local food movement and low-income individuals in our state.
Thank you very much, Kelsey. And Bjorn, you're in your car. Are you actually driving?
I'm not driving it this minute, but I might be on and off through the meeting.
Yeah,
I apologize.
That's okay. Tell us
Am
about
I up
you,
next
Bjorn.
for?
Yes, you are, please. Thank you.
So my wife and I, we live out in the Uinta Basin, and we raise beef, pork, and lamb. We do as well with Angus cattle, Berkshire pork, and then just a crossbred lamb. But yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, Bjorn has been with us from the get-go in working in that space. And so now our friend Jack Wilbur.
Since I retired, I'm very slow on the draw. Sorry. Took me a minute to unmute. So yeah, I'm Jack Wilbur. I'm a small-scale fruit and vegetable farmer in Davis County and Salt Lake County, South Davis County and Salt Lake County. We are 100% direct sales, farmers markets, online store, CSA, and we do. I guess I consider a couple of small farm-to-table restaurants with direct sales, but a very small part of what we do is a little bit of restaurant sales, and that's me.
Thanks, Jack. We got you on the agenda just a few minutes here. And then we have some call-in people. I see Saprit on, and Linda Gilmore, and Cimbria is on as well. But that's all I see on my screen, Callie. Are the rest call-ins?
Yeah, let's see. So we've got a cell phone number that ends in 08.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, Dale.
Okay.
Okay.
I was thinking of my cell number has a 08 in it, but not at the end. This is Dale Newton. I'm the CEO at Utah Farm Bureau, and I'm going to be on the agenda in just a little bit and talk about some of the new exciting things that are happening at Farm Bureau and some of our new subsidiaries. So,
Perfect. Thanks.
Welcome. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you for the time this afternoon.
This is Ruby Ward. I'm on the call too. I'm in
Yes.
economics.
And then I've got another phone number that ends in 48.
Yes, hi. This is Hong Nguyen with the Software Group.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you for having us on here.
Perfect. And for those of you who haven't met Hong before, they are opening the Foundry Food Hub, and we're really looking forward to their feedback today as we talk through the Local Food Advisory Council. Let's see, Ashley Patterson.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Callie. I'm Ashley Patterson. I'm the Executive Director of Wasatch Community Gardens.
Perfect, thank you. And then let's see, Brad Belknap, who is going to be here as a voting member in place of Heather Borski.
Hi, thanks, Callie. I'm Brad Belknap. I work with the Utah Department of Health and the Bureau of Health Promotion, working on a lot of our food insecurity initiatives.
Perfect. And then Gina Cornea. I know Gina's, oh, Gina, I see you're off mute now.
Hi, Gina.
We'll circle back. Okay, and we've got, I think, oh, and then Kate Wheeler, you're on the call as well, right?
I am. Hi, guys. Kate Wheeler, Utah State Board of Education Child Nutrition Programs, and I work on Farm to School.
Perfect. So just to confirm, the voting members that we don't have in attendance, just to make sure they're not on the line, are Allison Einerson, Jordan Riley. You'll have to excuse both Commissioner Wild and Deputy Commissioner Pearson. They're not here either. And then Marie Polson. But otherwise, we have a quorum, so we should be good to go. So we are all set, Representative Handy, on our roll call.
Thanks, everyone. We welcome you this afternoon, and we need some good thinking this afternoon from you about as we're growing up, what we want to be when we grow up, and we need some good thinking about that when we get down to get down here in the agenda towards the end. So the next thing we have is that we need to approve the minutes from the 25th of June. So, Senator Davis, would you motion approval for that?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Thank you very much. And I don't know if we need a second or not, but we don't do that in legislature, but so we'll just go with it. Any discussion to the minutes or any changes? All right, all in favor, either say aye or raise your hand or something of approval of the minutes.
Yeah, I think we actually, Ed said we need names. So if you just want to say your name and aye, then that would be perfect.
All right, we have to take a roll call. So, Callie, we'll turn it over to you for a roll call. So I'm an aye.
Kelly, can we just put that in the chat?
Good idea.
Yeah, put it in the chat. I still have to read it for the recording, but yeah, put it in the chat. Give everybody a sec.
Yeah, these things we have to do it this way. Takes a little more time.
I'm only on a phone call, so Dale Newton is a yes.
Thank you, Dale.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got
Bjorn Carlson is a
Kelsey.
yes. Sorry about
Perfect.
that, Callie.
No, that's okay. So we've got Bjorn, Dale, Gina, Brad, Kelsey, Representative Handy, Ruby Ward. So we are good to go.
Thank you. Those minutes are approved, and thanks very much. So the next item here is that we get to have an opportunity to welcome a new member. We've had some people, as always happens with these boards and commissions, come and go. And we're very pleased that Jack Wilbur, who applied and was approved, and then approved through the governor's office. And Jack, of course, recently retired from the Department of Agriculture after, how many years, Jack? 40 years, 35 years, something like that. And he was our staffer, got us going. Jack and I got acquainted when, after the legislation passed to establish the Food Council, we took an afternoon trip up to see Dr. Hall at Utah State to get her vision and kind of put some sidebars to what we wanted to do. We had a vision, but she helped us put it together. So, Jack, would you like to say anything? We're gonna vote on you in a minute, so make a good pitch.
Well, I'm very happy to be here and to be considered for this position. It's been really fun the last few years helping get the council going and leaving it in very capable hands with Callie and the UDAF staff. And now I'm excited about the opportunity to perhaps be part of, as a voting member, just part of the council still. And I guess you can't get rid of me that easily, I guess.
Yeah, good for us. Any questions for Jack? Callie, the next step is to call for a vote of approval of acceptance.
I will make it.
Senator Davis do it. Thank you, Gene.
Representative Handy, I'll make a motion that Jack Wilbur become a member in good standing.
Thank you very much.
Advisory committee.
Thank you very much. Any discussion to that? Then those in favor, if you would vote aye in the chat. Is that right, Callie? That we need to record this.
Yeah, except for those, there were a couple that couldn't do the chat. So if you can't do the chat, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just.
This is Dale Newton. Yes.
Bjorn Carlson, yes.
Okay, great. So we've got Dale, Bjorn, Gina, Ruby, Brad, Kelsey, and Senator Davis. So that's 6. So Jack is in.
And I'm holding my hand up. Representative Handy, yes. Add me there. Okay, terrific. Welcome, Jack. Now you're full-fledged, and you've got a great, as having come out of the agriculture department, having helped get this commission going, and also as a producer, you're out there producing. You're out there literally on the ground, and can give us the perspective of what we're trying to accomplish here with the Food Council. The next item is we're pleased to hear from Dale Newton, who's the CEO at the Utah Farm Bureau. And Dale has a presentation for us called Food Innovation Center, about the Food Innovation Center. And frankly, Dale, anything else you'd like to talk about? And I would encourage the council to think of some good questions, but we'll turn the time to you right now, Dale.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure this is a presentation or just a discussion, but it'll have to be because I don't have any handouts.
Yeah.
Let me start with, we engaged a consultant about 2.5 years ago now, by the name of Jeff Manning, and we asked Jeff to help us market products from Utah producers more effectively, more efficiently. And as he got into that discussion with us, and we had several meetings with him and with our board, and finally Jeff said to us, "You don't have enough money to change consumer preferences." So that was kind of an eye-opening statement, and I believe he's right. And we were talking about our mission, our vision for what this organization does and how we represent producers in the state. And it kind of changed all of our views when he talked about changing our paradigm of us representing agriculture to a much larger universe where we represent food production, and therefore food eaters. And as the discussions progressed and we started thinking about, okay, how can we get new products out there that consumers might buy? We kind of initially stumbled on this idea of food innovation centers. And Jeff visited, and myself and our president, Ron Gibson, we visited the Oregon Food Innovation Center, and Jeff went to two others, I believe, if I remember right, Rutgers and at Michigan State University. And then we talked to lots of others on the phone, and we found out there's about 30 in the country. And basically what they're trying to do is innovate new kinds of food that obviously consumers want and will buy. The single best example I can give you of a food innovation took place in Michigan. And that's where McDonald's went to Michigan State University, and they had kind of a little fledgling food innovation center there. And McDonald's went to them and said, you know, we've got hamburgers on the menu, we've got fries, we've got apple pies. We need some kind of, we had salads. We need some kind of fruit, something that will appeal to the kids and to their moms. And through a variety of processes, they eventually came up with the apple slices. I don't know how many of you have had those. I hadn't until we started this discussion, so I said I better go buy some and try them. And they're pretty good. And that whole story of those apple slices that McDonald's asked was an example of a food innovation. Didn't exist before that, and now they've sold billions of them. The Michigan apple growers couldn't even begin to meet the demand, so it spread to other states. So there's an example, and there's others, these meat bars, epic meat bars, and other things like that, where we come up with a brand new kind of food. And it's got to be either tasty or properly priced. It's got to be available, and hopefully it provides an additional market for Utah producers, in this case, Utah producers. And so that's the Food Innovation Center concept. We had a Food Innovation Summit in September of 2018, almost 2 years ago. And I think Representative Handy, I think you came to some of that. And we thought it was a big success. We had several speakers there, one of which we had no idea what was going to happen down the road, but we had the CEO of Beyond Meats was one of our speakers there. And now I think you all know the story of what's happened to Beyond Meats and these meat replacement vegetable-based burgers, and that company is doing very well, and their stock is just taken off. So Ethan Brown, who's the CEO there, little did we know, but a year later he's going to be a billionaire from the sale of his stock. But that's another example. That's the kinds of things we had in mind. We haven't been able to get very far down that road of a food innovation center, although we still like the idea. We think it can be an ancillary benefit with these food hubs, and I know Hong is available or looking at that down in Salt Lake City. So we still like that idea. We think there's a role for that to play in providing new products that consumers will embrace and buy. Then related to that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about, I see it on the agenda, Farmers Feeding Utah, and it says UDAF representative. I can maybe touch a little on that too, because what we're doing right now is part of the outgrowth of that initial belief in food innovations and new ways of doing things and trying to provide new markets for Utah producers. That's what we're trying to do. Our mission statement says that we are to inspire all Utah families to connect, succeed, and grow through the miracle of agriculture. That's the mission statement of Utah Farm Bureau. And we think this whole idea of connecting with all Utah families is one that we can embrace initially. And so we're talking about that. And then the markets are already languishing, and then along comes this virus, and the markets just fall apart. And most Utah food producers rely on a healthy portion of their sales coming from food services, whether it's restaurants, schools, other institutions. And in March, those basically just went away. And so a lot of producers lost 30, 40, 50% of their markets. And as we're trying to struggle with that, then that's about the time that all those stories started surfacing about milk producers dumping milk. You read about stories in the Midwest of hog farmers having to euthanize tens of thousands of hogs in a quantity or volume I can't even imagine. And yet there were people that didn't have enough to eat, and there were producers that didn't have markets to sell their products to. So we were trying to think about what was going on that. One day, Ron Gibson, our president, was on the Rod Arquette show here locally, and an individual in West Jordan, someone that we didn't previously know, heard that story and kind of discussed it with his wife. His name's Dave Brown. And they decided maybe we could do a GoFundMe page or something for Utah farmers. And so Dave looked up Ron's number, called him, talked to him, kind of threw up that idea. We didn't know quite what to think of it other than, yeah, it's nice to know somebody heard the program and somebody wants to help farmers. So as we talked about that, we finally decided a GoFundMe page wasn't the right way to do it, but we created another website. I think a lot of you have heard this. We had, I think, some very good success with our Farmers Feeding Utah.org program. And our first two miracle projects were in southeastern Utah at the Navajo Nation. And then we did one in Cache County at the end of June. I think I got the dates right. And we did the last one here in Salt Lake Valley at the Utah State Fairgrounds on the 27th of July. So what those miracle projects, and they're under the farmersfeedingutah.org, and we really appreciate the Department of Agriculture's support of those. Those projects, those things we call miracle projects, are part of the Miracle of Agriculture Foundation. And as we started going into this, we'd been talking about this for a while about, Utah Farm Bureau ought to have a foundation. And once this thing got going on the 7th of May, I said, no, we can't just talk about this anymore. We have to have a foundation. So I got a hold of our accountants. They referred an attorney. I got the attorney engaged. And on May 13th, I think, was the day we actually got approval from the state. Our articles of incorporation were filed. And we got everything else done, and our board's organized. So we have a brand new foundation. It's barely 3 months old. But we have a foundation, Miracle of Agriculture Foundation. You're going to see that more and more as time goes forward. And the Farmers Feeding Utah Miracle Projects are part of the foundation. So the best way to think of this is the foundation is Utah Farm Bureau's not-for-profit charity arm. So it's a 501c3. Anybody that contributes to the foundation, obviously that becomes a tax-preferred contribution. We hope there are thousands of them, and our next step in that whole evolution of the foundation is to start to go after corporate Utah and the really large foundations and basically solicit funds for that. We raised about $350,000 from individual contributors, and that was either on the website or they were sending in checks to us. And then Utah Farm Bureau made a contribution. Another one of our subsidiaries made a contribution, and that's what we're funding that operation on so far. We've found recently that the donations from individuals are really slowing down. I think we've kind of tapped that out as much as we could. We still get a few every now and then, but not to the extent we were 2 months ago. So the next step is to approach corporate Utah. We think it's a wonderful project that basically, remember the basic premise is to buy food from producers and give it to people that are food insecure for whatever reason, whether it's Navajo, Native Americans, or whether it's people in Cache County or anybody else. Our next project, we're just starting the planning phases now, will be in eastern Utah, somewhere in Uinta or Duchesne counties. So that's where we're at with those Farmer Feeding Utah projects of the Miracle of Agriculture Foundation. So that new company, a new foundation, is up and running. Then we had so much fun. What?
I want to take a moment to congratulate the Farm Bureau. I was at the fairgrounds giveaway, if you will, and it was just amazing. It blew me away, the amount of food that was there for people who are hungry. So congratulations to you, and I'm glad we've got a foundation to keep it going.
Yeah, thank you. That was the first time, to any extent, we'd received donations of food from outside the state of Utah. We've developed a great relationship with the Hunger Institute at USU, a budding relationship with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. At that fairground event on July 27th, we had a truckload of carrots donated by California Farm Bureau and a truckload of potatoes donated by Idaho Farm Bureau. So part of why we had it that day is we had a conference up at Snowbird, and we had all of the presidents and CEOs from the other Western farm bureaus in town, and it gave them a chance to see it, to participate in it, and I think we developed some very good will with other Western farm bureaus in that regard. So that's what's set up. The foundation is, up and running and going to last forever. Then we'd had this kind of running parallel track to it, and we had been doing research about meat processing capabilities in Utah. And Bjorn, you'll be able to contribute to this. We found that was lacking in the state of Utah. There's a few very large meat processors, but a lot of it's not local and it's not controlled locally. And it creates some real inefficiencies for a lot of our producers. I got one producer in Utah County that raises cattle. He ships it to Oregon for slaughter and processing. Then it gets shipped to Atlanta for distribution in the Walmart distribution center. And that's a lot of transportation that we think maybe there's another way to do that. So on July 8th, so a little over a month ago now, we formed another corporation. This one's a for-profit corporation. And I'm trying not to confuse you, but this one's called Farmers Feeding Utah, Inc. So it is a for-profit corporation. The basic premise of Farmers Feeding Utah, Inc. is to basically help fill this void in meat processing in the state of Utah. So on, 13 days ago, we acquired some property in West Haven, Utah, which was a slaughter facility, which the owners we bought it from didn't really want to do that anymore. We went up, negotiated a purchase of the land. It's about 5 acres in West Haven. And just yesterday, to start this process, they slaughtered 47 hogs, and they are being cut up now as we talk. Kind of a bit of a test, but also an ability to help provide a market to the kids that have raised these hogs in Box Elder, Salt Lake, and Cache counties. Since a lot of the county fairs just aren't quite functioning the way that they have in the past, we were able to purchase some of those hogs, get some money to the kids for raising them, and then they are being cut and processed today and tomorrow, and they will be stored until we need them for our next miracle project. So that company's up and running. Our next steps with that, we've got a facility, we own the property. The next step is to decide exactly what meat cutting equipment we need. Do we buy it? Do we lease it? To what extent do we remodel the facility? And the long-term goal there and the way things are moving. All this has happened in less than a month now, is to eventually have a facility where we could sell local, homegrown Utah products right now. For the starting out of the starting gate, it's going to be meat, and then have a storefront there, kind of a Red Barn kind of approach where people can come in and buy it. Also, we've started negotiations with a software developer to provide an online marketplace where somebody could go in and say, I want 4 ribeyes, and there they are, and you buy them, you pay for them, and they're delivered to your house either on Uber or DoorDash or something like that within the hour, at least in the metro area. So that has just started. Like I said, that's a software development project that we're just, I had a big conference call 2 days ago with the developers and with our legal counsel on that, and we're pretty excited about what that could potentially hold for us. So there's an update on Utah Farm Bureau, our new foundation, not-for-profit foundation, and our new Farmers Feeding Utah Inc. For-profit entity, which I think, I'd be putting it mildly if I said we've been a little busy at Farm Bureau the last 3 months, considering the oldest one of these new entities is barely 3 months old. So be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. It's been a pretty exciting time around here, and I'm not sure where it's all going to lead. We think it's got outstanding potential. And again, the bottom line why Utah Farm Bureau is involved in it is to provide markets to our producers who, for whatever reason, haven't had good markets in the past. And it was all those marketing inefficiencies were exacerbated by the pandemic. And we're trying to, like I say, connect, back to our mission statement, trying to connect Utah producers with consumers that either want to buy food or are not in a position to buy it, and we will donate it to them. So that's where we're at. Questions?
Dale, as Representative Handy, amazing report. I assume that these entities, like the Miracle of Agricultural Foundation, has a website. You've gotten websites going on there.
I wish I could say yes to that. Here's where we're at, Steve.
Yeah.
We've engaged a company to design a logo for us. I've got drafts of that now. They're also engaged in developing a website, and I've told them I want that operational before our next set of board meetings, which is 2 weeks from today. So we're getting very close on that. But do I have a website today? No, I don't, but we will in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, amazing. Let's see what other questions. If anybody have questions that I can see on the screen, if you'd like to raise your hand, I can call on you to ask questions or clarification.
Gina, did you raise your hand in the chat?
I noticed Gina has her hand up.
Go ahead, Gina. Can you hear us? Go ahead and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Gina Cornea, Utahns Against Hunger. I just really want to thank the Farm Bureau for all the work that you guys have done through these miracle products and Farmers Feeding Utah. It's been a huge resource for families who, during this time are struggling to afford enough food. So thank you for your leadership on that.
You're welcome. It's been exciting for us.
I have a question, and that's on, are we getting the meat inspectors that we need? Excuse me, Gina, I didn't know if you were finished yet. Didn't mean to step on you.
Go ahead, Gene.
I'm just wondering about the meat inspection up there. Do we have an ample number of inspectors to be able to take care of that chore, if you will? Because I know that's very, very important in getting that, especially to markets that we need.
Yeah, that facility in West Haven, and for those of you who don't know where that is, I didn't know there was a West Haven, but it's just on the west. It's just on the west side of Ogden. Yeah, just east of I-15, but just barely east of I-15, and about 20.
No, not east, west of I-15.
No, it's east.
You're on the east side of I-15.
Our property.
Gotcha.
Our property. The city might go both ways. But that's where this is at.
Okay.
And just off 21st Street.
Okay.
And it's you can buy something there, and you can be on the interstate in 3 minutes. So it's got nice freeway and arterial access. That was one of the benefits we saw from this particular piece of property. This property is, in response to your question, Senator Davis, it's got a USDA inspection. We need to determine if we've got enough inspectors once we really get operational. Like I said, this current situation with these 47 hogs is a bit of a test of the facility and of the people that are helping us out. So we've got the USDA inspector there for this now, but is that going to be enough in 3 months when we're operational and doing much greater volumes? I don't have an answer for that today, but obviously we realize that absolutely has to be the case.
So Dale, is that facility retail that's open to the public?
Nope, not now. We've got to build that little red barn first, and I think we got to figure out how to afford it. But our plan, Steve, is to have that. Oh man, if we could have that operational in 6 months, that would just be tremendous. And like I said, that's on the drawing boards of the plans. But how fast we can move with all this, I don't know for sure today. I'm just taking these one step at a time. We bought the land. I've got the insurance in place. We've got our board set up, and we've got animals in there right now while we're talking. So we'll move as quickly as we can on this because we want to provide.
Representative Handy.
Yes, please.
This is Kelly Pearson. How are you,
Commissioner?
Sorry I got in late and I just heard the end of that, but I wanted to maybe just talk to you and Senator Davis about one of the challenges we have with meat inspection plants as an agency. So there's 3 different types of plants in the state of Utah: 100% federal, like the one we're talking about here, which is a federally inspected plant by the USDA. And then we have what's called TA plants, which is a federal plant but state inspected. So that and then there's a state inspected plant. So as far as funding for our agency, if it's USDA, we still have to come to legislation and get 100% of that salary and wage for that inspector, but then it'll be reimbursed federally 100%. And then on a TA plant, we still come to you and ask for an FTE, and it gets reimbursed 50%. And then on a state inspection, we have to cover 100% of that. And all this is general fund money. We're in a situation where there's quite a few meat packing plants that want to open, but we've never been in a situation where we needed to increase employees to allow it to happen. Unfortunately, we've been the other way around where plants have closed down. So right now, with general funds so tight, we're in a pickle where we obviously saw the food chain break down, not having enough meat packing plants in the state. But we also don't have enough general fund in our animal health to increase FTEs right now. So it's going to be hard. I don't know what's going to happen. So we're going to have to come with a building block this coming session and say, hey, we anticipate 3 or 4 plants opening, and this is what we think they're going to open. They might be federal, they might be TA, they might be state, and we're going to need inspectors. And when I say inspectors, these inspectors have to be there 24. I mean, anytime there's butchering done. So if they butcher 4 days a week, 5 days a week, we have to have an employee there the whole time they're butchering to make sure it's healthy and safe. So it's not like we can share from another plant, or so we will have to come to you and ask for more employees to open these type of plants throughout the state. I hope I made sense. If you
make a lot of sense, that'll be exciting for us to help you make the case and support that. I mean, right, Gene? I mean, good heavens.
That's right. When we get to the end of our meeting, one of the agenda items is going forward to the legislature. And I think this is probably one of those issues we want to put on our list.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, we saw what the breakdown in the food chain through COVID, and I think it would be crazy not to be prepared to try to fix this situation in the state of Utah by opening. We need more meat packing plants, and I hope you will help us get some more inspectors.
Yes.
I think the key to local food and everything is really having inspectors and having more processing plants so that those who are growing, small growers, that they can then have access to marketing their product and do it so that it's inspected meat. I think that's very, very important.
Agreed. And if you're a cattle farmer right now in the state of Utah trying to get an appointment to butcher your cows, you're a year and a half out right now.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
year and a half. Think of that.
Yep. And so we're in the pickle that a lot of people don't have the land or the can pay to keep feeding them while they're waiting. So that's the struggles we're seeing right now.
Yeah, if they're ready for market, you don't want to carry them over for another while. So that makes sense.
Well, any other questions, Dale? That's an amazing thing. Bjorn or Tamara, who are in that space, do you have anything to add or questions or,
I was just going to add to that. So the livestock that can't be butchered, and several producers in the state are relying on those avenues, because that market's been flooded right now because there's been a backup, and anyways, that market is dropped in half, where those producers are going to be hurting severely this next year if we don't come up with a solution soon.
Hopefully this is going to be one of those items that the Farm Bureau will put on their pass list as well, so we can get that muscle to the legislature.
Yeah. Tamara, you unmuted. Go ahead.
Yes, I would be concerned also in what type of label that would be putting on your product through the Farm Bureau. Would it be a generic label that you just have your state inspection number and your meat handling instructions? Who would basically you would need to fall back through as far as having that on there? Yes, as far as goats and hogs and everything else, you're at least a year plus out as far as butchering and getting your product out there.
Well, we're going to figure that out. That's discouraging to know you're that far out, but yeah, I don't have an answer today on the labeling.
This is Linda. One more thing that we've found out during COVID too is the existing packing plants have doubled their kill numbers. And as we've met with 16 to 18 of them in the last month and a half, they've hired new people. They're working extra shifts. They're working on Saturdays. They want to grow, but we've lost our funding, like the rural funding sources that GoEd had. So we don't have a funding source to help. They might need 100,000. They might need 200,000 in a matching grant, and there isn't anything out there. Even USDA doesn't have grants for that type of growth. So that might be something to keep in mind as we move forward as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda. All right. Well, that is an amazing report, Dale. We really appreciate it. You're welcome to. We want to see how the local food advisory council can help and assist in these efforts, so draw upon us, and we will work collaboratively and in partnership with you. And if you'd like to stay with it into the meeting, you're welcome to. If you need to move on and all that stuff you've got going on, you probably ought to get going. So thank you for taking the time with us, Dale.
Well, I'm good for a little bit longer.
Thank you very much. Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to our working groups, and I just would remind we've got about an hour left in the council time, and so we need to move through this pretty good. And so our first one, are you ready, Bjorn, to talk about ag land preservation? We have a 4 o'clock meeting about this. That's our committee at 4 o'clock, right, Callie? But go ahead if you have a report, Bjorn.
We just have a real quick report. We met a little while ago, came up with some goals and some other good members that would be, our attendance to the meeting was really sparse, but we brainstormed some outside outside people that could add to that, and they're in the knowledge and expertise. And we've reached out to those in the last little while, and we're moving forward there. Hopefully we'll have some numbers and more to report on next time.
Yeah, we're going to have a good meeting at 4. I don't know if you're hopefully able to join us. That's terrific. All right, the next one is the statewide, and anyone has questions on any of these, I'll just move unless I see questions in the chat or hands raised or something, or you break in, that's fine. The statewide community food assessment, this is Natalie and Brad Belknap to give us a report on your subcommittee, your working group.
Sure. Thanks, Representative Handy. So this is Brad. I'll give a very brief update as to where we're at. We met last month for the first time with Natalie and I as co-chairs. We had a really good discussion just in general about assessments and what we're really talking about, defining what an assessment is, what different assessments can look like. After that meeting, we actually received a lot of really great feedback outside of the meeting from some of the members. Natalie and I have kind of met and discussed it several times. We sent out a short survey to the work group members just to kind of get a better understanding for what every member's interest is around an assessment personally and professionally, because we've noticed that everyone kind of had a different approach to understanding either what assessments are or their interest in the assessments. So we're actually meeting soon. We're meeting next Friday on the 21st. So our plan is to kind of review some of the feedback we get from that survey, discuss it, and then set some expectations and hopefully some goals at that meeting. So we'll hopefully have more to report after that.
Thank you, Brad. There was a chat question that just came in from Reagan to Bjorn, and I'm going to let Callie, you just take that chat, and if he's on the phone, and you can forward that to Bjorn about the kind of people you're looking for on the Ag Presidential Committee. Okay. Jack, are you ready to talk to us? Innovations in Production?
Yeah, the Innovations in Production group. In our last meeting, we started to talk about our social media platforms and a policy for social media, as well as how we would do calendaring and those kinds of things. Well, let me rephrase. Dr. Hall has developed a draft social media policy, and it looks really good. Callie and I have reviewed it. We want to make sure that Representative Handy, that you and the rest of the production group have a chance to look at it, and then get it out to the council for review. It basically covers content, what's appropriate, definition of roles, and I think that may be one of the things that we may want to discuss a little further, is at this point to kind of be able to make sure that we're all on a kind of a consistent page. We've defined that Dr. Hall and myself and a representative from UDAF, potentially the PIO, or maybe Callie or somebody, would be the kind of review group that would take the submissions and then make sure they get posted, whether that be by one of us or some of Dr. Hall's students doing the posting, but the content would come in and be filtered through the production work group that has taken on this assignment and then out to the public. We're looking at potentially all of the top social media platforms. We haven't ruled anything out at this point, but that's our goal for the next little while. In our next meeting, and then ahead of the next council meeting, is to have everybody be able to review the policy and help us get to the point where we're starting to be ready to go with social media. Dr. Hall or Callie, would you like to add anything to that at this point?
I'm just commented, Jack, about how I thought it would be appropriate now to just share the policy with Representative Handy, Senator Davis, and anybody else in our production work group, because I feel like having their input would be the next step before we share it with the council as a final document. I'm working on the calendar and actually doing some mock-up examples of appropriate content we could use as ways to demonstrate how we can use the platform to really focus on a few different things. Being able to do informational stories about Utah's local food systems, farmland preservation efforts, our food distribution innovations, production innovations in our state, as well as any regulations that we're working with and supporting as a council. The idea is that we can promote action items, event notices hosted by our council individuals, but that we aren't wanting to do any kind of publicity of council member specific businesses or commercial activities and endorsements of like the political candidates and spam and things like that, but really be able to have a platform that starts sharing what we've done as council members and the organizations that we represent.
And one of the keys to this as well is somebody had to lead on this, and the production work group is doing that. But to be successful, this has to have buy-in from all of the work groups, from the council as a whole, because we will be very knowledgeable of the things that are going on that we do. But if we're not on all of the work groups, and I know I'm just on a couple of them, I may not know everything that's happening within the council as a whole. So it's only going to be as successful as the content generation, which is going to have to come from a larger group than just Kelsey and Callie and Representative Handy and myself. So anyway, that's basically our report. I know Kelsey's moving forward with that. And yes, if I might have not said that clearly, but the next step is to have our production group talk about it in our meeting, and then we'll get all of these drafts of the calendar and the policy out to the larger group.
And I do have an extension intern on marketing communications that I could have this student in agricultural communications help out with generating content for us as part of her role. I thought that could be a great way to train a future agricultural communicator, work with the council, but maybe when we're three of us working together and we have ideas or information or we need something created, she could help with doing that. And it would be a little less pressure on us since she's working for me for about 15 hours a week. So that way it can stay like regular postings, at least once a week, if not twice a week, and helping generate that content and seeking out the things that you share and then being able to put forth that material for publication.
Sounds awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move to Ruby. Dr. Ward, you've got innovations in distribution, your working group. You ready?
Yes. We have met twice. We also, in the first meeting, the idea of the social media came up, and you were in that meeting, Senator Handy. Yeah. I can't even say the words. And Kelsey took this on, and so I'm glad that she's working with the production and innovation working group. But really, there was buy-in from our working group too, and it made more sense to do it for the whole committee than just an individual. So I'm kudos to everyone that's working on that. We also view our group as being able to communicate across the different people and coordinate amongst the things that we're involved in, and also just a coordinating role, I think, has been beneficial for our committee, and we'll continue to do that. So some of the stuff that we're working on, I think, comes out of some of the stuff that we're already working on in our jobs anyway. But the Double Up Food Bucks, the SNAP benefit program, is doing well at the farmers markets, and Hannah is going to work on gathering some data for changes over time with that program. And then also, I believe Katie is working with you to present something. And so she talked about, or not Kate, yeah, Kate Wheeler is working on that. So I think that if I got the right name in the, we talked about it on Monday, but maybe I've got the wrong person. But anyway, somebody And then another idea that came up is, I don't think it's necessarily the right timing, but still having a position that can help coordinate the use of local food in the schools and other types of things. Right now, there's not really one position that can do that. And so it kind of gets pushed to the side, but eventually having something, a position that, whether it's in UDAF or Department of Health, school, it's not really clear exactly where it needs to be, but somebody that can really kind of focus on pushing that stuff forward, because there is a lot of various things that have to happen to make those things work. And then also, as Linda mentioned, we are working on a meat processing or meat study for Utah. So I'm working on that at Utah State with some other people with the Department of Agriculture and Food. Linda's conducted 16 packing plant interviews. We're also gathering materials on the cost to start and run a packing plant. And we have this week, Qualtrics, we're working with Nevada, is doing a survey of like pre and post COVID, how people's food habits and buying habits have changed a little bit. So we'll see if we get anything out of that. So that's, we hope to have that report done by December. Let's see. And then I know that I believe Hong is on the call, but Lori Cerrone was on the committee meeting and she said the food hub was delayed.
I'm sorry, we kind of broke off there. What did you say about the food hub?
I just said that Lori was on our working group call and she indicated that the food hub was delayed a little bit, but we're expecting to have renovations start.
I'm so sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you, but did you guys want me to give an update on the food hub right now?
I think that'd be a good thing, Han. Give us an update.
Okay. So with the Foundry Food Hub, we are still moving along. It's just with everything happening, it did slow down our timeline a little bit. But the plans and drawings are in engineering right now to make sure that everything is going to work with the city as far as our throughput with the utilities and everything. So our hope is that once everything's done with engineering, we can move to the final building plans and get it on our construction schedule by spring of 2021 is our goal right now. Once under construction, our timeline is to have it open by the end of 2021.
Thank you, Han. Any questions about that? We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to appropriations, but
So I think that's about everything that our committee has been working on or doing. Food access also came up as an issue, but we haven't really done anything more recently on that. And so I'll see where we go. But that is everything, I think. If there's anything else, feel free to chime in, anybody.
really, really great work. Really great work. The last one is about regulations that has my name on, but I'm just kind of a placeholder. We did have a meeting. Callie helped me with this. We really just talked in generalities about the challenges of regulations, and I don't think we've really come up with anything specific.
No, not yet. Mostly just trying to figure out how we wanted to approach it. But I think too, our open discussion today might help with giving us as a work group some ideas on what to do next.
Yeah, very good. Well, that's terrific. I mean, a lot of the work, a lot of this work, and boy, some great things are happening, and great things are going to happen in the future. And it's just, busy. But it's interesting that the technology and meeting this way has enabled people to have, it's easier to get people together, and they're safe and protected and not having to get out in public, and you can kind of just get together. And I think it's terrific. Well, we're down to the next one is the appropriations request updates. Just to some of you, this is new to you, but we started out really pretty soon after the Food Council was going a little bit and thinking, what can we really do? And I sponsored, and Senator Davis sponsored. And the way what you do in the legislature is that you can come with a standalone appropriations request. And so we've been at this for a couple of years. We've been successful. Yeah, Gina, we'll come back to you in a second. We've been successful with the Double Up Food Bucks, a $400,000 ongoing appropriations, which is doing great things. We also had wanted to get $150,000 for the state to provide kind of seed money for a food hub. And we're still going to pursuing that. It's been hard to educate legislators about what that is. And we even had a video but what that exactly is, we need to redouble our efforts there. And then the third initiative has been with Farm to School that we've worked so closely with Kate on at the Utah State Board of Education. And we thought we were really there on that. We had approval and excitement and buy-in from a lot of groups, but just didn't get it. And with that, that's kind of the background for some of you that this is new to you. We have a thing here from Natalie Lutz and I guess you'll be doing this, Brad. The Utah Produce Incentives. Just give us an update. This is Double Up Food Bucks, right, Brad?
Yeah. Sure, I can give a quick update on where we're at with that.
Yeah.
It's actually really exciting. We've had a lot happen during this farmers market season with the program. It started off a little bit questionable in our minds with how the pandemic was going to really impact the farmers market season. And we'd worked earlier in the year with some of you all about how can we make sure that the farmers markets can go forward safely. But we have been keeping track of all of the data from the markets that have been participating in the program weekly as they've come on board. And the program has just been skyrocketing. There has been a huge amount of demand for both SNAP transactions at farmers markets as well as for the Double Up Food Bucks program to match those transactions. So real quick, I've got some numbers I can kind of break down that we just got. Hannah just gave these to me this afternoon from recent as of last Saturday, I think, when the markets were going. So we've been able to get 23 markets on board, which is more than we've had last year. So that's great. We've been able to get all of the markets that originally said they were interested to participate. And year to date, so if we're looking at, well, I guess I should say that so far to date, we have spent there's been about $30,510 so far in Double Up transactions alone at the farmers markets, just essentially from July, the end of June to now. So this is really great. If you compare that to kind of where we were at last year, it's significantly higher. It's right now it's looking at about 60% more transactions and more dollars have been spent on the program than the same time this point last year. And that's actually a little bit low because we're still collecting some of this data from the farmers markets. Not all of them have reported their data to us yet. We've projected with the markets that have given us the data, and we've projected comparing the numbers from markets that have not yet given us data. And what we have found is we're really anticipating about a 70 to 80% increase at this point in mid-August from where we were at last year. So just to show you how much demand there's been for the program. Another interesting thing to note is that the demand in rural markets has been where we've really seen the most increase. There has been a huge turnout at our rural market partners. There's been increase in turnout in all of our markets, but in rural locations, we've seen a lot of interest, which has been really great because we know that there's a huge need for food resources and to support local production in those areas. So this is really exciting for us. We're really looking forward to finishing out the market season. It's kind of crazy because we're really at the height of the market season right now, and it's still rapidly growing. And each week we see an increase in numbers. So we're anticipating that there's going to be a really strong showing for this program at markets for between now and the rest of the year. So we're excited about that. The one last thing I'll just provide is that Natalie's been working with Utah State on conducting part of our evaluation activities. So We're planning on doing some customer surveys at the end of August as part of this evaluation, which will be nice. It's the first chance this year we've had to really gather information directly from customers on the program. And we're also going to be gathering information about COVID and the impacts of COVID on customers and their purchasing habits and their food security and issues that they're facing, and as to why they're participating in the program. So really good things are happening. Honestly, the challenges that we're having right now are keeping up with the demand and making sure that we can get enough money to markets to continue to offer the program every week, because they're going through it that fast. So that's a good position to be in and a good problem to have.
Well, Brad, you've got plenty of budget, but I mean, $30,000 doesn't seem like anything.
So this is in the incentives for Double Up. So that's the number of incentives that have been redeemed. More of the incentives have actually been distributed that have not yet been redeemed, because sometimes people don't redeem them that same day. They can bring those tokens back. And we've been seeing actually a lot of people not redeeming all of their tokens at that same day. And so there's still a lot of tokens out in the wild that we're anticipating will come back in. But the majority of the $30,000 has been spent in like the last 3 weeks. I mean, the program is ramping up. At the beginning, the markets were slow to start. Some of them started later. And so that was normal. We didn't expect to see a large amount of customers shopping at the markets and participating in the program, essentially in June and a lot of July. But we're starting to see now that they're underway, those are really ticking up. So we'll see. Hopefully that trend continues, but we are anticipating that those numbers are going to really start going up soon.
Thanks. Any questions for Brad?
I have a question there.
Go ahead,
Chairman. Brad, I'm wondering, you said that there's an increase in the rural markets. Are the Double Up stamps being used there as well?
Yeah, that's what we've been seeing, is an increase in utilization of Double Up food bucks. So SNAP recipients utilizing our program at rural markets.
In rural, okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right, Brad. Gina, we will come to you on EBT, but let's go to Kate here. Give us an update on what you're thinking, how this is coming along.
All right, well, I have a couple updates actually from other states, basically. So, you know, one of the things that we've used when we're arguing with this is pointing out that there are quite a few states that already have these local reimbursement programs, and it seems like every year there's another state adding it. So New York started a program like this in the 2018-2019 school year was the first year they had it. And so they've just, American Farmland Trust actually just released their first big evaluation of the program. And it has been a big success, just like all of the other ones. So just some quick statistics that I thought were really great from that are, during the 2018-19 school year, New York schools purchased 65% more New York fruit and 45% more New York vegetables. And then 77% of schools expect to continue to increase their New York grown food purchases in the future with that program. So it's just more data points showing that these programs are really helpful, and they do bring more local food into our schools. The other piece of news I had is that on the national level, actually there is a representatives from New York and Wisconsin introduced a Small Farm to School Act, and it would basically create an 8-state pilot program where they schools would reimburse more for using local products in their lunches. So who knows where that will go, or if it will go anywhere. Keeping an eye on that for sure, because I actually just found out, I was researching, trying to figure out, well, what are these 8 states? And it actually says that if the act passes, they'd have states apply to be selected for it. So definitely something to keep an eye on, but I think all of this really points to the fact that this is just a strategy that's gaining a lot of momentum. And so Utah can either lead from it or join in at the very end. And so this is an opportunity for us to be leaders and be innovative and really support our school meals. But I think it's something that's going to happen at some point, whether we're jumping on the tail end of a trend 10 years from now, or whether we're making it happen and helping the kids sooner rather than later. So I do think that it would be still really helpful if we could present to during the interim session and kind of get this on folks' minds again. So if we can get on that agenda at some point, I think that would be really great. I don't know if even if doing it during Farm to School Month in October would be the best time, or when would be the best time to do that. But I'm guessing that's probably our next step now.
Yeah, the ball's in our court. I'm going to get that going for us, Kate.
Cool.
Representative Andy, I have a question. This is Jack.
Yeah.
I guess it's a statement and a question. I think that a lot of times the Farm to School Month and the Apple Crunch in October are kind of when people are thinking the most about purchasing local for the schools. And this year, of course, we've got some real potential, roadblocks to a successful Apple Crunch. And so I think there's an opportunity for us as the council and for perhaps you and Senator Davis to maybe help kind of take a role even with the media in helping publicize Apple Crunch a little bit. And then I guess to my question is, Kate, maybe do you want to give them a little bit of detail? I know you sent us a spreadsheet the other day, but you guys are working on some alternative plans. Is this an appropriate time to talk about that a little bit, what your plan is for?
Yeah, I can always talk about Apple Crunch. So that is, we like to do in October, that's National Farm to School Month, an annual celebration where the goal is to get as many Utahns as possible to eat a Utah grown apple, right? And so it's an awareness raising activity. It's a lot of fun. Apples are good. It's super cute. Kids always lose their teeth. And in past years, that's really happened. It's happened in cafeterias. It's happened in classrooms. The past 2 years, we've brought 80 to 100 kindergartners also up to the Capitol Rotunda and done different education activities with them there and had them crunch on apples there. And my long-term goal is honestly for that to become more of an advocacy event too, and really use that as a time to bring attention to local food and media. We are trying to bring kindergartners to the to the Capitol this October. We are going to try to provide a lot of virtual events. So some schools are going to be serving, their plan is to be serving meals in school at that point. And so we're going to provide just kind of our standard resources and stuff and still encourage them to buy local apples and have those celebrations. That said, even the schools that are doing online learning or a mixture, they're all still serving food. So the local apple part, I think, is still going to be relatively easy. But we want to make sure that all that education and those fun experiential components are included too. So we are working with some farmers to get some virtual farm tours filmed. So since kids aren't probably going to be doing field trips out to orchards and things like that, so we'll have some of those posted. And then we're also working on an Apple Crunch in a Box idea. Kudos to Wasatch Community Gardens for the idea. They did summer camp in a box this summer. But we're going to try to do a bunch of resources that then schools can send home with those bagged lunches that would have local apples in them so that they can still participate that way. But it is going to be different, and it's always harder when you don't have a big group of people to then get attention and excitement. So yeah, help promoting that and help getting the word out about Farm to School Month is certainly going to be helpful.
And I think if whether you can get on the interim committee in October or if that's not the appropriate month, but I feel like October is a really good month to sort of remind the members of the committee about what we're trying to do ahead of the legislative session.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Commissioner Pearson has left the meeting. Callie, should we just leave the food hub and just go on to the next item?
Yeah, I think maybe the food hub could be discussed thinking about what legislation we want to move forward based on what Commissioner Pearson reported last time. So
Great. Now,
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Gene.
I think Gina's been waiting to give us a report.
Yeah. She's and Allison Emerson on D is not in the meeting, Callie, right? So, all right, Gina, you're up about EBT. You and I have had some emails about this. I've talked to the former director of workforce services about it. They were working on this, but explain EBT to us and credit cards. Yeah.
Yeah, so pandemic EBT is a monetary benefit that families with kids who receive free or reduced price lunch or SNAP as of March 16th can get $308 per student. And students whose families receive SNAP receive those benefits automatically last Thursday on August 6th. And then all other families had to apply, and that application opened August 1st. As of yesterday morning, they've taken 17,800 applications, but there are 77,000 households that need to apply. So we still have a pretty significant gap of families who need to apply. Utahns Against Hunger is doing a lot of outreach for it. We had Reagan Signs donate their 4 digital billboards, and we paid for 3 static billboards. We've got information at pebtutah.org. We have information in 11 languages, including Navajo, Samoan. We're waiting on Tongan and a few other, but the Tier 1 languages for Salt Lake County. Applications close on August 31st at midnight. And so we've asked legislators to do some outreach on either their Facebook page or their other social media platforms. So Representative Handy, if you haven't signed up, we'd love to recruit you to do that. I know you are on Twitter, and Senator Davis, I know, has been working with Alex Cragen to promote it. So if you have folks who are in need, just send them to pebtutah.org, and they can get information about the program and a link to apply at Department of Workforce Services. 7 questions, super easy. And we just, there are a lot of families in need right now, so we want to just get the information out as widely as possible.
Say the website again. You broke up there a little bit.
Oh, pebtutah.org. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gina.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Ask Gina a question, if I might. And that is, what I'm hearing is that there's a program out there that people can order food and use their SNAP card, use that debit online to have food delivered to their homes. Is that every store, or is that just Walmart? And
yeah, so the online purchasing for SNAP started on August 5th. At this point, it is only Amazon and Walmart. I've had some conversations with Dave Davis. Other states have had some problems getting local or regional retailers on that. There are just some security issues and being able to use your Horizon card has a PIN number. And so to order online, you have to be able to use a PIN. And that presents a technological problem for local grocers. I've not checked in with Dave since it launched, but I mean, in terms of, local food, I think it's really important that we do whatever we can to support local grocers. Folks can't go to Harmon's, they can't go to Smith's or any of the associated food stores. It's really limiting, and Amazon and Walmart are the only ones who are going to be able to benefit from that. And I think there's also an issue with the digital divide, that a lot of folks who are homebound who would most benefit from an online ordering process may not have access to the technology to even use an online portal.
The one thing is, I think those 2 outlets, it's unfortunate that you have to do it that way, Amazon and Walmart, because we do have local stores and other chains in the state of Utah. There are probably redeem more SNAP than those two national corporations do.
100% agree with you, Senator.
But what do we need to do to encourage them? Or is there something? Is that a national situation, or is it something we can handle locally?
You know, I can report on that next meeting. I'm happy to do that. I just need to check in with Dave Davis and find out where they're at.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. I can't get PEB Utah to come up. I don't know if anyone's having problems with that.
Are you putting E or are you putting a P?
Just like she has it, PEB. Oh, you got to have a T in there. Gotcha. All right, we'll try again.
You about gave me a heart attack, Representative.
I don't want to do that, Gina. So PEBT Utah.org. Yeah, here it comes. Okay. All right, we wanted to have, pandemic EBT. Thank you. The next part of the discussion, we have about 20 minutes to go here. We wanted to have a council discussion, and Callie, just remind us, you had sent, and more than the initiatives that we want to present, I think we've got a good handle on that, or there may be other things that we haven't talked about, the farm to school and the food hub, but there may be other things. And this is the time, I think, that remind us, you sent out a note that everyone should come with a couple of ideas about where we see us going forward. I think what are we missing in our initiatives and our mission?
So kind of like we've been talking about is we all know that the group will sunset in a couple years, but we want to be proactive. We don't want to just wait till the last minute. And something that we've been told in the council and out of the council is that we just have to prove there has to be action items coming from the council. There's so much good discussion here, but to be able, especially because the budget cuts with COVID and things like that, as Deputy Commissioner Pearson said in the last meeting, it will probably be several years of divisions, departments, and things like that, programs trying to slowly get back what they lost. So looking forward over the next couple years, we just need to be mindful of whatever we put forward, especially, to bring the council back again after the sunset date. We really need to think about the action items that come from it. And like Kate said, Kate presented some really good information on what other states are doing and how states who have it in place have benefited during COVID. Those are the types of things that it sounds like we need to have. So basically what Representative Handy and I were trying to get, and we're going to review with Commissioner Wild when we touch base with him, is just from each member, maybe since we're short on time, just a statement about what action items or what initiative or things like that do you want to see the council do, so that when we go back in a couple years to see if it can continue, we can say, these are the actions that we've done, this is what we've completed, here's the hard proof of what we do, basically.
Let me add something before we start here, a little brainstorming session. When I got this idea, it was because I had been on the Natural Resources Committee, and we had all of these really difficult in a really compressed 45-day legislative session that you're only really on the Hill 33 days or so, right, Senator? And you have these very difficult issues were coming in front of us in natural resources, and we didn't have the expertise. Meaning even simple things that seem simple now, but cow share and bees and all kinds of things and meat issues, and it was very hard to do. And so I had gone on a trip with the National Council of State Legislators, and we were at North Carolina State, and a professor there, just for an afternoon, a professor there told me about their local food advisory council. So I started communicating with her, and they had it for about 5 years, and then at sunset, but they continued on their own under some auspices, not with legislative purview. And Dr. Hall, you know about these things, but we want to, I think, Senator Davis and I think we want to be sure that we are credible and valid and worthwhile, and that we're really making a difference. So that's kind of where we wanted you to do some thinking about it, and we don't have to hit everything now, but I kind of start with what are we missing? What are we missing in our initiatives with the Utah Local Food Advisory Council? Kelsey, have you thought about it? And Ruby, our academicians?
I haven't said that I've got really great ideas and stuff, but one thing that I'm wondering about is, can we take some of the stuff that we do as part of our jobs? Because not just what we're doing is like an initiative that the committee puts forward to the legislature to show kind of what we're doing. Because I think that the value of this is the coordination that we're getting amongst several different groups. And so a lot of times I think we've solved those in part of the private sector because of what's been doing. We're solving them because we may go get grants from as part of our regular duties and, you know, do those projects. The projects that we got grant funding for, we can bring them back here and get better exposure and get them more robust because of the things that we're taking into account. So to me, that's where I think a lot of the value of this committee is. And so I'm not sure if that plays into, you know what I mean, your action items, or if we want to try to capture some of that type of stuff. But
Ruby, I think we could, because I'll be putting the report together, and I think that we could definitely kind of glam that up and make it really look like a lot of action items. We could put specific departments who coordinated and really what came out of it. I think that definitely would work on the report.
Well, because I just kind of think back, I had my students were doing a preliminary kind of food hub thing because they had to do it as a class project. And it was just a class project. But then the information that we got from that, we presented to the council. That was also used in other ways, you know what I mean, with other things that were going on and stuff. So, and then some of that was also presented to the council, and then Lori Cerrone was working on that, and then she's still working on that with Hong and stuff. So I think that some of these things have outgrowth. That's just one particular example that there was a lot of stuff going on because of some of the conversations that we had, I think.
Great stuff. Kelsey, you're up. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I was actually thinking along the same lines because I listened to everyone's projects, and I think when I was writing that social media policy, I was writing about kind of the scope of the fact that we need to be coming together, and we need to think about the organizations we're representing, the efforts that we're doing at our organizations that are helping this council, and use that to help measure the impact. But I also think it wouldn't hurt to do some media and some publicity and marketing communications about our efforts.
Yeah.
And that's why I really have pushed for this Facebook page to start with sharing those stories, because if we can get the media to pick up on some of the things that you're doing, and we can then tell the story about the farm to school issues and bring to light that it would be amazing to have somebody at Department of Education to be able to help make those coordinated efforts and the impact other states have had it. And to show the meat processing issues, we might be able to get some constituents as well as our legislators to help support our initiatives and drive it forward beyond our 5-year program. So I guess that's why the past few months I've been really driving this effort, because I feel like we're doing great things, but we're not telling anybody that we're doing these great things. And we've had wonderful presentations. I started listing everything we've done in 2.5 years. I have a lot of content we're going to be able to build from and use to start telling our story. And that might help show the impact, because we can also measure the impact of our social media and how we're communicating about our council's efforts. So not only would I support Ruby's ideas on how our organizations are reporting back what we're doing, and use that and maybe even put it into the different work groups that we're members of, but then to also report on how we're communicating those efforts rather than appropriations, because I worry about putting forth a lot of appropriations for the next few years because of the state budget.
Yeah, Senator Davis, you and I come from that space. I mean, we have a great story, but we haven't been telling it. But it's time to toot our own horn.
And the one thing is, I think members of the commission could really help us by communicating with the legislature, by taking the stories that we have and making sure that the members of the committee, at least, and leadership, receive this information, even if it's in print or online. And we need to make sure that the legislature understands that this isn't a feel-good committee.
Mhm.
This is actually a committee that has some great ideas on making sure that agriculture in the state of Utah remains is strong and is able to help our citizens really be healthier food-wise and have fresher food. And if we do away with that, if we lose all of that, and I think that's one reason I look at the meat processing issue and why that's so important is because we're losing all of those products out of the state of Utah. And we really need to preserve those. And we need to, the emphasis on the hub, it takes the growers in the state of Utah, the horticultural growers, and gives them a marketplace to go to. And that's so important to keep that going. So we need to tell that story.
I completely agree with you, Senator Davis. And in fact, I hope when you read our policy, you'll see that, because I talk about how we need to share information and experiences that promote Utah's vibrant, locally owned farms, resilient ecosystems, our strong communities, and healthy eating, and an integrated local food system. And that our content will be evaluated for its relevancy toward this mission of the council. So then we can tie back all of our stories to that mission in our work group, and I think kind of show the bigger scope that we come together as a council quarterly and we do our monthly meetings or regular meetings, but that we're really out there as council members making the impact and coming back to each other, reporting and sharing and collaborating to improve Utah's access to food. So I hope that we'll be able to accomplish that, and you guys give some feedback so we can start it this fall.
That's one of the great things that we have is the ability, I think, to use this platform. And if you take a look at our subcommittees, they should really be acting as NGOs to the elected group that is here and sending that information forward.
I think that, I was just going to say, I think that what this has done is these are really complex issues, and so they're across multiple disciplines, multiple types of agencies, multiple types of people. And I think when the real value for this committee is just bringing all those people together for some of these discussions. And so I think it's, I just got a request from Gina to, for something that they're working on as part of, her organization. And so I think it can help us know who to go to and be able to and look at issues for multiple things. And it doesn't always have to be a state appropriation to help solve those issues. Sometimes it's just the coordination of things. And then that this group is working and they're in place so that when we do need something, that it's a rule change or an appropriations request or something, we have the body in place. But it's, we're not always going there first. We're also looking at solving some of these things and having impacts from what we're doing within our jobs and our organizations.
I think something too for you guys to think about, because I'll look to you for content for the report, but as you guys are thinking toward the end of the year, when I put that together, if we can connect as much as we possibly can to COVID and what this group has done for COVID, I think that that's on the front of everybody's minds as much as I think everyone's fatigued by it as well. It seems like if we can really connect, like with the farmers market, I know that a few of you worked with UDAF to get some regulations put together. I think that's definitely a solid action that we can connect back to how we responded during this whole crisis.
Terrific insight, Kelly.
I don't know how much money is out there left in the CARE Act agriculturally, but there is money, federal dollars that have been given back to the states to try to address the issues of COVID. And I don't know how much of that is available that we could actually have an impact on making sure that it gets to the local farmers.
There are quite a few people on the call. I can't see your hands raised, but is there anyone else who is kind of thinking through what
Jack,
you think we're missing?
Anything, Jack?
I really like the discussion about trying to get more of the things that we are coordinating and working on out there. I I do worry a little bit that if projects are led by individual agencies or a couple of different agencies, that we're careful in how we address our part of it, if that makes any sense, as a kind of a coordinating body, that we're not taking credit for initiating things that we're not initiating. But at the same time, I will say that with our prior administrations, I don't know anything about Commissioner Wild, but in our prior administrations that I worked under while I was working in this council, really, as the PIO, the idea was we put forth what the Department of Ag does first. And yes, you're working with this council and everything, but your job isn't to promote them. It's to help coordinate what they're doing. And we want to promote the accomplishments of UDAF. And I would imagine probably most agencies would, at their communications level and maybe above, have those same kinds of philosophies. Like I say, could depend people to people as they're in charge. But now we have an opportunity, I think, with Dr. Hall and who's in a little bit different position at Utah State University, and myself, who's unaffiliated, to really try to run council is, and here's what we're doing. I mean, after we had our first news conference related to the first meeting we had back in 2017, we haven't really ever pushed the council as a body in the mainstream media, or certainly in social media, because we've never had a page or anything. And so I think we're on the right track, but I think we have to think in terms of how much can we sort of take credit for stuff as a council, and where's the line on that, and then run with that.
One of those issues, the farm to school program. It's run through education, but really what we should be doing, I think, is really getting that word out. As I talk about more local food going to the schools and being used by the schools, my constituency is actually saying, great idea. We need to do more of that. When you talk about the food hub and the need for it and how it works, the public buys into it real quick. I mean, they like the idea, and most people love the idea of local food. They want local food. And I think I try to sell that idea, of course, to the committee, that's what it's about. That fresh food, that fresh taste, that fresh ripe taste coming out of the garden is so important to everyone, I think. So we need to get that out. I agree with you, Jack. We need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit more.
Ashley, you had a question you wanted to ask?
Sorry. Yeah, so I want to say it was like 2013 or 2014. I was on a task force for Your Utah, Your Future that Governor Herbert commissioned and Envision Utah led. And there was a whole agriculture section, and one of the big take-homes was 2 to 3% of our fruits and vegetables are grown in the state. And I wonder if we could use that report as a talking point to show that these initiatives were identified through this process with a lot of stakeholders, and identify some of these things like the food hub and the work that Kate's promoting as tying into those things that came out of the process that the governor commissioned.
Outstanding idea, Ashley.
If I could just tie something onto that really quickly too, I think in this group and other places, I hear that like 2 to 3% of fruits and vegetables, like we say that a lot. I wish every time we said that, we would also note that even so, some of those are still getting sold out of state. Like that's the wild part to me. It's like, no, we don't grow a ton of fruits and vegetables here in Utah, but we're still exporting them And that's the part where it's like, wow, we could at least eat that whole amount that we're growing.
I would dare say the majority. Just because I'm thinking of at least in the tree fruits, I would dare say that it's the majority, because the largest producers, I know a lot of that is going out of state. And one thing, Utah is actually, I should double check and verify this, but Utah, to my knowledge, is the #2 tart cherry producer in the States, second only to Michigan State. And our cherries, this probably gets beyond our scope, because this gets a little more complicated, but ironically, our cherries are being sold out there as tart cherries of Traverse Bay, Michigan. Which is pretty mind-boggling how that all works. But I was also going to mention, and this is something I've sounded off a little bit on this before, and I'll probably try to draw it out and put it into a longer form, more thought out, and send it to everyone in the council. But I'll just use it as an example. And what I'm trying to point at is, maybe we should go around, find all the growers, ask them, what's some bit of legislation that looks small in your eyes that would make more money for you as the producer and your colleagues, the producers that are in your field, and see if there's any low-hanging fruit out there that we just hasn't really come across the council desk, that maybe the senators could say, that's a really easy piece. Let's get that passed through quickly. And that's probably an oversimplification, but the point that I've brought up before is that Colorado has probably 30 different cideries, hard cideries. And so by population size, we're about half the population. So, but how many cideries do we have? We have one, arguably a half here and a half over there. But when I went to the horticultural meeting, this last winter, I sat down and I ended up sitting at a table, and lo and behold, there was not one, just, me, I'm interested in ciders, but there was 5 of us at this table that all wanted to do hard cider. I've explored it with another outfit that's a microbrewery in the state, and he spent all winter long going over numbers, and came back and said, a hard cidery does not make sense to open in the state of Utah. And that is his conclusion was 100% legislative reasons. Granted, maybe we don't have as high of a population, alcoholic beverage consumers, but even still, and I'm even still, it's interesting. There's that much interest out there, and someone who really looked it in the face said, no, this doesn't make sense to do in the state of Utah. And this is just one example that maybe there's other things out there. In my small world, I think I can easily point to that, and we could talk about what changes could take place. But maybe in the grains world, there's, I don't know, in each respective, if we will talk to several growers in their own little niches, maybe there's some changes legislatively that we could, that if we could find some low-hanging fruit, because I realize legislation, there's I would guess there's some easier than others, and changing alcohol laws, I imagine, is not an easy task. But perhaps a simple questionnaire on selfishly, growers, what do you need to make more money yourself and your colleagues would benefit by?
Jordan, I'm glad you brought that up, because I can tell you, The one thing is I've got about 5 distilleries in my district alone, in Murray and South Salt Lake. And I had a meeting with a couple of them a month or so ago. One was a cider distillery. The other is a hard, if you will, spirits distiller. And their question is, how come we can't get local notoriety? Number one, we can't get a place in the liquor store that says Utah's own. It's not accepted. None of these products are accepted as agricultural products, though they're purchasing locally where they can to make their products. And they're really, I mean, and there's distilleries, wineries here also that are in Iron County. There's one in South Salt Lake, as a matter of fact. And they're using local product, but they don't get the recognition that they need. And I've been meaning to bring that up in discussion with Representative Handy and Callie, because I think it's one of those issues that's probably come of age. You look at California, you look at Idaho, you look at Oregon, the grape industries and the wine industries are part of their agriculture and background in those states. And it's looked at by the states as an agricultural product. It may be time that we need to look at it here in the state of Utah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, it's actually kind of funny that I'm the coordinator for this, and I'm also the coordinator for our international program, which is kind of interesting difference. But, you know, Kate made a good point, and so did Jordan, about how things leave the state. And like the tart cherries, for example, the majority of their promotion is done through an organization called Cherry Central. And they do sell out of Michigan, and everything runs through Michigan, and it is interesting. But I think, obviously, my goal is to get people to export, but my program wouldn't exist if there wasn't a demand. And a lot of times when I hear people come to me, I don't want to say it's out of desperation, because that's not always the case, but for some people, they can't find markets to sell here where they could make as much as they could exporting, which is crazy if you break it down, because when you're exporting, you're paying so much in freight, you're paying tariffs sometimes. You have to, in some countries, you have to completely redo your packaging into a different language. So as I've worked through this program, it seems crazy to me that people would prefer to export, but it's just because there is, for some reason, there is a lack of markets here to sell to. And I know we get a lot of feedback about grocery stores. It's difficult to get into the grocery stores, and maybe farmers markets take a lot of time on the weekends, but I think that could definitely be a good discussion. Why producers, like our fruit producers, why is exporting either out of the state or internationally, why is that easier than here, than within the state? And I guess Cimbria had a comment to add. She just put in the chat.
Go ahead, Cimbria.
Is she still on? Cimbria?
Just trying to figure it out. There you are.
So I don't know if Ruby's still on, but it was at the conference that she puts on every year, the Small Ag Conference. And it was just a clicker survey they did at the beginning to small producers. And the question was, what is your greatest barrier? And I was surprised, because there were choices, would have the stats, but the number one answer was regulation. That's it. For thought somewhere. That's talking about it. I just thought they felt.
Thank you. Listen, everyone, what a great discussion. We're going to have to end. We're running up against the ag preservation meeting. Some of us are going to go to virtually at 4 o'clock, right, Callie? And so any final thoughts from anyone? About 30 seconds. If you have something that we didn't say. Gina says, be well all. Thank you, Gina. And we had a great discussion today. So Callie has recorded this. We're going to go back through and sift through this and see where we're going to go. My action item, and Senator Davis, we got to get on the October natural resources. I'm going to send an email today to the staffer and start getting that meet up. And we can make a little bit of an annual report then to them as well. So anything else from anyone?
Senator, I'd like to sometime visit
yeah,
a little more complicated subject as well about the prevailing wage for work visa workers in the state. See if what our options are there. What's possible that we can influence there.
Let's have that conversation.
Yeah, that'll be another day.
Let's have that conversation. Okay, thanks everyone. When's our next meeting, Callie?
It is pending special session. It's in October. Let me just pull it up. October 22nd. Will that work?
We hope.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's the same week. That 20th is the same week as the legislature generally meets in interim meetings. So that's a good thing to have on the agenda that week, but it's also subject to change.
Yeah.
So
great.
Anyway, let's plan on that.
Let's plan on that. Senator Davis, would you give us a motion to adjourn? And thanks to everyone.
I'll make the motion to adjourn until October 20th.
22nd. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and all in favor, sign off. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.